Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie O'Leary. We're going to get Richie's take on Rutgers' 49-17 win against Akron from this past weekend. We're going to do a little light film breakdown, try something new, go over the PFF grades that Rutgers has at the moment. We're going to talk about how some of Rutgers' future opponents did. And we're also going to talk some hoops recruiting because we had an official visitor this past weekend. We got a few more coming up later this month in early October. So that's starting to heat up. But before we get into all that and more, this podcast is presented to you by Knight and Day Apparel. Get ready for football and tailgating season with Knight and Day Apparel. Our apparel is designed to keep you comfortable and stylish from the pregame excitement to the final whistle. Whether you're grilling in the lot or cheering in the stands, our high-quality gear has you covered with unbeatable comfort and team spirit. If you use our promo code RutgersRivals, you can get 10% off your purchase. Score big this season and keep shopping with Knight and Day Apparel. And I always have it in my right hand, but I got my Knight and Day Rutgers mug here.
Got a new Eric LeGrand shirt, the role models t-shirts are now on here. Pre-order, so, whatever.
Yep, they just started that partnership, I believe, last week, too.
Yeah, I think I have the old black one somewhere, but this one's a little different. It says, did the old one say "Believe" on the back? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I forget.
I don't remember. Yeah. Anyway, use our promo code, get a little percentage off.
Yeah, no, it was awesome to see Eric LeGrand at the. I didn't see him meet him, but he had his Walk to Believe this past weekend as well before the game. They had a huge turnout for that. They had over 1,000 people in that walk. I think it was at 9 a.m. right on Scarlet Knight's Way in front of the stadium. So really cool event. And it sounded like from what Greg was saying in the post game that it was the best one they've ever had. And Eric's mom was super excited to just kind of talk about that. But let's hear your take on the game. So Rutgers won 49-17. They covered the spread, so they were a great team this weekend. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. They did get their act quite together by the end of the game, but it looked a little bumpy early on. What was your take on how the game went in general?
The first half was very questionable. It kind of just started from the very, very beginning. Athan's one wide open pass. I think it was Dymere Miller, if I recall. And he had him wide open and just bounced it to him. And I'm like, oh, God, what was that? We didn't see that yet this year, so...
that was a designed rollout to the right, and he just short hopped it. And that's the kind of throw that we were talking about, me and Alec in the post game show. That's kind of, for as much as we've kind of questioned Gavin, that was a throw he would make, or at least he would have the arm strength to make it. And so it does make me think maybe Athan can't make every single throw on the field, but that's a tough throw, rolling to your right, throwing kind of across your body. But
yeah, wasn't an ideal start, but obviously he changed his entire tune going into the second half. Ended up throwing over 60%. Had a pretty solid day. I wouldn't say a great day. You see that Chris Long deep ball, and it's like, okay, if you can do that, that was perfect in stride. Hit him in the hands, that was just a beautiful thing. But then he also made some questionable ones, like the KJ Duff touchdown. Technically, was thrown in the double, triple coverage at the time on the goal line, and it just luckily KJ Duff was just there for the little bounce
went
off,
right into his hands.
Yeah, that was almost perfect. But and then obviously Kyle Monangai is a god basically among men.
Unbelievable.
And I see people all over social media saying is he the best running back in Rutgers history? And I heard you say it on the post game too, but no, he's not. But he's damn well up there. He's not Ray Rice. You got to look at Ray's numbers again if you're questioning it at all, because those numbers are just gaudy. But no, Monangai is very good in his own right. He's probably, I think he's the leading rusher in the Big Ten still as of week 2. Yeah. And then I think he's third nationally, something like that.
I think he's second nationally last time I looked. The only guy ahead of him is that Ashton Jeanty guy from Boise State.
Oh, yes.
He might, have over 2,000 yards easily this year, as long as he stays healthy. I think he's got 400 some yards already.
Yeah, it's insane. I know people are starting the Heisman talk already. I don't see it happening personally because, number one, he's a running back. They just don't win it anymore unless you have crazy, crazy numbers. Number two, are these going to be consistent throughout Big Ten play? Who knows? Probably still be in the hundreds, almost if not every game. I I think he'll be up there in terms of the top running backs in the conference, in the country. It's so hard for a running back to win it now. It's so hard for anyone that's not a quarterback to win it. But yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of talk, and him in pass pro is just ridiculous too. I don't think he gets talked about enough because you saw Raymond come in and try to pass block, and he was still hitting the defenders, but they're still able to get around him because he's not hitting them hard enough.
Yep.
But you see Monangai out there just picks up every single like edge rusher, blitzer. Like it's just he's so good at it. It's ridiculous. But overall, I mean, pretty solid game. A little scary at moments. I think I said it in my prediction, actually. I was like, Akron might go down the field and score first. And Joe Moorhead's just a really good coach. As bad as that team is, as awful as they might be the worst G5 team out there, Joe Moorhead knows how to call plays. The man is a genius when it comes to offense. I think putting him in Akron for this long is a disservice to how good of an OC he really is. But he just seems comfortable there. And there's not a lot of pressure. It's a job you could probably have for life if you really want it to be Joe Moorhead. But yeah, no, I thought it was a solid game overall. Now there was a couple mistakes, but a win's a win, and you got 49 points out of it, which I didn't see coming. So just a good day.
Yeah, I saw them covering, but I didn't see them scoring 49. Back to your running back winning the Heisman discussion. Yeah, there's only been 2 Heisman winners this millennium who have won the Heisman at running back, and that was Derrick Henry in 2015. And that was Mark Ingram in 2009. Every other winner outside of Devonta Smith has been a quarterback. So, yeah, really tough to do.
Being a voter, I should probably know that.
That's all right. I kind of want to go back to early in the game. Really, it was just the first 2 offensive drives that this team struggled. Yeah, the interception on the first drive where Ethan tried to dial up a deep shot. He threw it into double coverage to Dymere Miller. He got absolutely crushed on that play, too. If you go back and watch it, he took a huge hit from their defensive end. Yeah. Then the second drive, they go forward on 4th down from midfield. There was a corner blitz that didn't get picked up because it was they did a play action pass, and there was a wide open receiver. But because it was a play action pass, the running back who would be responsible for picking up the blitzing corner on that play didn't have the time to actually get in front of him. So Ethan just had to kind of throw it up there, or otherwise that would have been probably a 30-yard gain. And then after that, they started picking it up. They had, the rest of the half, they had 4 possessions, 3 touchdowns on offense. The second half, their possessions were touchdown, 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 punt, end of game. So they really did turn it on. It just was a slow start against Howard. And while when you're playing inferior opponents, those slow starts won't really hurt you. Against quality opponents, they will. So again, we got to nitpick a little bit. But yeah, they didn't have the strongest start to the game, but they ended up having a really solid performance offensively in general. How do you think the defense fared against Akron on Saturday?
I mean, I thought they were solid, but again, there's just moments where there's just mishaps, and it's against a bad Akron team, so you got to talk about it a little bit. I know that they really didn't give up many points at all. I think it was like technically they didn't give up 17 points, but like that one blown cover, or I don't even know if it's blown coverage. It wasn't blown coverage. It was just a miscommunication of some sorts where someone was not covering that one wide receiver in the second half, and it was just a wide open like 30, 40-yard touchdown, whatever it was.
Yeah, let me pull that. I have a screenshot up of that I wanted to kind of talk about, because the way that it's set up, it's interesting. You can see that. So if you look at the top part of this picture, you see this is how they lined up in the formation. You have what looks like Moses Walker kind of telling Daryl Jabome where to be. He's pointing out something. Yeah. You have Flip Dixon here at free safety. You have Eric Rogers at corner here. And then if you look next to Desmond Igbenuson here, you have Shaquan Loyal, who is, I don't know if it's his responsibility to kind of get to the opposite side of the field to cover the left-hand side, whoever lines up there. But if you look at the second play, or the second part, so as the play is snapped, Eric Rogers blitzes off the corner, Flip Dixon is blitzing, and you have Daryl Jabome and Moses Walker blitzing. So I don't know, I'm not an X's and O's football guy, But I can't imagine that Shaquan Loyal's responsibility is to get over to the other side of the field to cover the receiver there. I feel like it's got to be one of Flip Dixon or Daryl Jabome who was supposed to drop into coverage. If I had to guess, it was probably Jabome because Flip Dixon's an experienced guy and he's like coming with a full head of steam from his free safety position. So I don't want to say it's Daryl Jabome's blown coverage there or missed assignment, but that's the way it looks like just from the way the play played out on film.
Yeah, no, I think it has to be Jabome just because Flip's coming down up top. Mascal, or is it Mascal or who is that?
No, that's Eric Rogers.
Rogers, okay. So Rogers made the corner blitz, and did Walker blitz too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, then yeah, it's probably it. It's probably Jabome because it looks. If you go back to that first photo, it does look like he's pointing at him and like, "Yo, dude, go over there." Like,
Yep. Yeah. So
it is what it is, but
I'm sure. I mean, they're both young players. That's something that Greg said they got to clean up, and I 100% believe they will. But I wanted to specifically kind of get a couple screenshots of that play just to go over it because playing it back is really tough to kind of see what's going on in like a 5-second clip, especially when they don't slow it down and show it again. Yeah, there was a couple notes I had just about the defense I'll go into after on a rewatch. So this team, they struggled with mobile quarterbacks against Howard on a few big plays. Ben Finley was kind of able to get some chunk yardage in the run game. On Saturday. There was a play on Akron's second drive. It was 3rd and 5. Daryl Jabome was coming in on a blitz, and he just way over pursued the quarterback, and Ben Finley was able to just get an easy 12 or 13 yards. The following play, Akron ran this kind of like slow mesh where it looked like Ben Finley was going to start running it. Like he did like a kind of a fake forward, and then their tight end just was streaking down the seam and was able to pick up a huge gain there. So they just kind of got to get better with the QB run game because Kyron Drones is going to be the best quarterback that they face all season up to this point, and probably the best runner they'll face all season. And while he has struggled a bit this year compared to last year, at least how things ended, and I'm talking about Kyron Drones, that's going to be something they need to really key in on for their next game.
I'm intrigued to see how this linebacker unit does against that Virginia Tech offense. Between Kyron Drones' running ability, they have a really good running back in Bashal Tootin, however you say it. Jersey kid, so he's obviously going to want to put a little bit more stock into this one. It's going to be interesting because Tyreen Powell was questionable, wasn't he? If I recall.
Yes. Tyreen Powell was not out for this game. Wesley Bailey was out for this game. Tyreen Powell was questionable. Yep.
So if you get him back, ideally this week, kind of figure some things out there, and then if you can get him back, it's going to be tough. Like I don't want to just throw him into the fire immediately, but I feel like he's that good. If he's fully healthy, it's like, dude, you're going out there. It doesn't matter. You're going to work off that rust in the middle of the game. You have no choice.
If he's fully healthy, you need him for this game for sure.
Yeah. I just don't know who you replace because originally I would have said replace Walker, but I feel like Walker had the better game this week, whereas Jabome had the better game week 1. So you probably still put Jabome next to him and next to Powell out there, but I think it's a little bit closer than it was previously.
Yeah, they'll both play a lot.
It doesn't matter, I guess.
But yeah, I'm really hoping we can get him back for this game in 2 weeks against Virginia Tech.
Yeah. I know you mentioned Finley too. I got to give the guy credit. I know he didn't have the best performance in the world, but that man's just taken shot after shot in the past 2 weeks. And I didn't think he was even going to play because he got destroyed against Ohio State. And more power to him for going out there and being fully healthy. No, not fully healthy, but putting his life on the line, basically.
Yeah, behind that offensive line, it is kind of like putting your life on the line. I think the most impressive thing I saw the entire game Saturday was that 2-minute drill that they ran at the end of the first half, though. Because can you imagine last year at any point Rutgers getting the ball at the 20-yard line with 1 minute and 19 seconds left, up 14-3, that they would actually try and mount a 2-minute drill and try and score? No freaking way. They would be ready to take that halftime lead 14-3. Maybe if Kyle Monungai, breaks a 30-yard run, maybe then they think about it. But Rutgers was trying to score a touchdown coming out of that 2-minute drill. And I kind of just want to play it because I thought it was that impressive. I'm just going to play the entire 2-minute drill and we can stop it at any point.
Just chunk play after chunk play, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I recall.
I'm going to not play it too loud. So let me know if this is too loud, Rich.
Okay. That's fine.
As we take a look at our advanced stats spot.
All right, now it's a little on.
IFS.AI. Second consecutive game with 100-plus rushing yards for Kyle Monangai before halftime. And no, this week he's only 11 shy.
So we get the ball to 20 here, 14-3, a minute and 19 left. And they're going for it from the start here.
No, plenty of time for Callie Akmanis with 5 on the play clock. He's got Monangai trying to break it out to the left and tack on about 5 more.
Yeah, see, when they do something like that, I feel like, all right, they're not going to do this 2-minute drill. It's just more like just run it out.
Plays this year in the 2-minute drill.
Remember, they're rushing to the line
get
here.
The football.
They get the clock running, and you're just going to see what's going to happen. They get a pass in the second play. It's a wide open Chris Long.
So, you might have to like mute it or something. I don't know if they're going to be able to hear you or us in general, just because it's
all good.
Yeah, it's pretty loud. This is the Miller's the next one, right? Yeah, that was a questionable ball.
That was a very questionable ball. That was one of the stare down throws that he made in the first half. That I counted at least 5 or 6 where he literally just did not look off his first read and threw it regardless.
I thought he was going to catch that though, to be honest, too. Being strong,
he did high point it nicely. Their defensive backs made a few nice plays like that throughout the game.
Now this is the one I think where Miller comes in motion and then he's just wide open up the sideline. I think.
Oh, that might have been the best ball he had all day. Maybe not the best. This one the Chris Long was.
But this was damn close. Oh well, we didn't see it. He definitely was in motion if I recall. But this is the play. I'm pretty sure. Yep,
throws it right over the I think that was the safety of the linebacker's head. That was a perfect throw along the sideline. And that's really what kind of, I think, made them think, okay, we're going to score here.
Helps when you have a guy like Tymir Miller who's pretty damn fast and capable hands, good route runner.
Yep.
This is what they thought Juquay was going to be last year, basically.
Exactly. And Juquay, I mean, he was the highest graded rookie receiver in the preseason before he got hurt. He tore his ACL.
It's a shame.
Yep.
Made the roster too, right? I think.
So he didn't. He got hurt in the preseason games.
Oh, so did he get cut or was it injury?
He's on the IL.
Oh.
Or the IR, whatever they call it. So that's a bad throw right there by Callie Akmanis. You have to throw that to the back pylon. You threw it inside, which gives the corner an opportunity to make a play on the ball. If that's outside, at least it's only going to be Ian Strong or nothing. So that's a bad ball.
Luckily, the corner didn't backpedal. He just fucking did a spin, basically.
Yep. Yeah, the corner didn't really have eyes on it, which is good. But, a high-end corner will and probably have an opportunity to make a play on it.
I think this was Chris Long over the middle.
Yes, we're at the 37 here, 30 seconds left, 2nd and 10. I'm realizing now for the podcast audience, this we kind of need to describe it a bit more.
No, never mind.
It was an 11-yard reception. He throws it in a place where only the receiver can get it, low and outside. And it also creates a situation where you can't get your guy hurt there either by throwing it low like that. You're not going to take a crushing hit. And that's what I've kind of been talking about for the first 2 games in terms of ball placement. Ethan is so much better than any quarterback we've had in recent memory at ball placement because Chris Long, if you remember, he got hurt early last year. I think it was against Temple on an absolute hospital ball, and that cost him the rest of the year. I'm going to skip ahead.
If I have to hear that commercial one more time, I'm going to freak out.
So they have the ball now at right around the 20-yard line, the 15-yard line with 22 seconds left, 1st and 10, 2 timeouts. And mind you, they've moved the ball now 60-some yards in just a minute of game time.
PI,
Yep, we got a PI in the end zone on a Chris Long corner or post route or whatever. I don't know the exact route, but It was a corner. It was along the sidelines in the end zone. So you get the DPI. I think that places us at toggling back between NFL and college with some of these rules is always throws me off.
Like they don't even.
I think that's half the distance in college.
Yeah. So
we'll have a fresh set of downs here.
I thought that was questionable too, because was that catchable? You think?
I don't think it was catchable.
So that's why.
Okay, no, they have the ball at the 2 here. So first and goal from the 2, 16 seconds left. Whole playbook's open to you here, and they use it. Common guy, run up the middle, gets stuffed, setting up second down and 2 second and goal from the 2 with 12 seconds left. They have one timeout left, and that's why. You saw Shiano freaking out last week when Daryl Jabome called that timeout special teams because they were misaligned. Like, you might think Shiano is like a psycho for freaking out like that, but when you have all your timeouts at the end of a half, it allows you to have the entire playbook when you want to run a 2-minute drill like this. Because imagine they have one timeout left. They might be able to, have one run with Kyle Monangai, but then you have to pass the rest of the possession. So it really limits you. The defense knows what's coming. And the strength of this team, honestly, is the run game. So you want to have the ability to run Kyle Monangai if you want to, which is about to be exactly what they do here on second and goal with 13 seconds left from the 2-yard line. So they're lining up out of the timeout. 8 plays, 79 yards in 1 minute and 6 seconds of game time.
Reggie
Super efficient.
Tight end. Konopka, yeah.
Kyle Monangai plows forward for the easy touchdown to put Rutgers up 21-3 at halftime. They do all this in about 1 minute and 10 of game time.
It's huge.
Just incredible. Like, that is the first time I can remember like a really efficient 2-minute drill run by a Rutgers offense in a while. And you want to have, game reps of something like that before, a big game where you need it in the fourth quarter, where you get the ball, with 2 minutes and 7 seconds left from, the opponent's like 17-yard line. So I think the offense had a lot of really positive building blocks from Saturday, and especially, I know I said it before, but that was the most impressive thing I saw all day on Saturday.
The line was just super impressive too. I think they only had 4 pressures, if I'm reading this correct. 4 pressures per PFF. So, obviously the one was the interception, but the rest of the day in general, he was kept clean pocket most of the day, and it's huge.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about that offensive line. I'm gonna pull up the PFF grades for the team on the year so far. Because I think what this team has kind of put together from a, on the field perspective is just really impressive so far. I'm going to bump up the font here. So let's talk about the offense so far, grade-wise. So the receivers have kind of been the weak point on offense so far. You have Ian Strong with a 55.6 grade, Chris Long with a 68.9 grade, and Dymere Miller with a 74.9. Look at this offensive line, 1 to 5. It's
crazy.
You got Holland Pierce with a 78.9 grade. Last year, he was at 72.4. And obviously, it's still early. You haven't played strong opponents, but it's really positive to just see these kind of numbers and see the kind of performances they put together. Brian Felter, 72.7 grade. Gus Zielinski, 73.1. Kobe Asamoah, 81.9. And Tyler Needham, 92.5 grade. That is the highest grade of any tackle in college football right now. Kobe Asamoah is a top 10 guard in terms of grade. Holland Pierce is a top 25 tackle in terms of grade. And Gus Zielinski and Brian Felter are in the top 50 of their position groups as well. Just a really, really impressive showing from the offensive line. The yards, doesn't it feel like the yards for Kyle Monangai are just coming so much easier than they did last year? Like every single
pass game, there's good blockers.
It seemed like last year, every single time there was a big run by Monangai, outside of a few, it was like because he was able to break a tackle, either at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage and, use that as the opportunity to keep going. This year, it's just like the seas are parting every single play. And again, huge caveat, they're playing their 2 worst opponents of the season for their first 2 games. But it's a huge positive sign that you're seeing these massive holes get opened up by a group that was one of the bigger question marks the last few years. And I don't think if this continues, this is like the strength of the team is the offensive line and the running game.
Yeah, I'm looking now. He had 6 on. No, he only had 4 missed tackles forced after the rush. So per PFF. So I mean, like you're right. His vision is just well, not his vision. The holes are just opening up, and then he has the vision that he's just boop, cut, gone. See you later.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish he had that top end speed, because if he had that top end speed, he'd be certified. Like maybe not first round, because running backs are like not valuable anymore, really. Maybe second round, but draft pick. But that's the only thing he's missing. He's just missing the top end speed. That's it. But his vision is incredible. The holes are just opening up, and you could credit the pass game. But I was told this offseason that the holes weren't going to be there because he doesn't have a running threat at quarterback. But who am I?
Man, yeah.
Sorry to harp on it, but
it's all good.
The whole offseason, I need to make people eat crow.
Some more grades that were really impressive. The tight end group, Kenny Fletcher at an 85.3 and Victor Konopka at an 89.3. These are the number 2 and number 3 overall tight ends in terms of grade on PFF right now. Number 2 and number 3. There's only one guy ahead of him, and Richie got a long look at him this weekend, at least in film studies, the Bowling Green tight end who just lit up Penn State. But just like, they're not putting up gaudy stats, but it's clear from the tape review by PFF that these guys are playing at a very high level. I know that Greg has talked about Kenny Fletcher being an intriguing tight end because he loves the physicality of the position. And you can see that on film where Kenny is like, some guys kind of shy away from contact. Kenny is like trying to create contact anywhere he possibly can. And on top of that, he's got really good hands and he's a really good receiver coming out of the tight end position. So it's interesting because we were all, for most of the offseason, talking about Rutgers needs to go out and get a tight end. What are they doing? They don't have, any experience at the tight end position. And just like they didn't go get a right tackle, or they got Shedrick Rhodes, but they felt really strongly about the development of some of their players, like Kenny Fletcher and Tyler Needham. And I think some of us have to eat a little crow on that too. I was definitely trying to get them to land a tight end, or at least hoping they would land a tight end and a right tackle. And through the performances so far, I'm just going to shut up.
Well, when you run 12 personnel with Konopka out there, he's essentially a lineman. He's like 6'7", 265-ish, I think it was, 263, something like that. He's just massive. And we actually said it when he was in high school. He could have projected a little bit better as a blocker and as a future offensive lineman. And now he's still kind of in between, and he's never been healthy either. This is year 5 for him, and he just hasn't ever been healthy. And the guy's finally healthy, and it's like, all right, you don't have to be a good tight end. We just need you as a blocker right now. And it's working really well. He's got the size. Just an extra lineman, essentially, when he's out there.
Yep. It's just when you have tight ends who actually can elevate your game too, that's another reason the running game has been so good this year, is that they have 2 guys that are really good blockers at tight end, and Kenny's a really good receiver. And Konopka, I mean, that's kind of, what we thought he could be, was just a really good hybrid tight end because, he has that background in basketball. He's got all the tools. It's just kind of putting it together. It wouldn't surprise me if he scores some pretty important touchdowns later in the year.
Yeah, definitely see it.
And then Munungai, I thought his grade should be higher. I don't know. Again, I'm not 100% a PFF evangelist. I just think it is like the closest thing to a true understanding of how good a player is playing, because they do look at every snap. Like, for example, Ethan's touchdown to KJ Duff on Saturday would be deemed what they call a turnover-worthy play. The box score will just show touchdown, Rutgers, KJ Duff, 8-yard touchdown reception. But if you actually watch the play, it was an interceptable pass, and it just so happened to carry him right into the hands of a Rutgers receiver. The same way that, like, if he was to throw a pass perfectly right in the hands of a receiver, and it bounces through his hands and into a defender's lap, and it's intercepted. Those are kind of the yin and yang of those two scenarios. So let's talk about the defense here. Keontae Hamilton was the big surprise when looking at the grades. He is, I believe, a top 10 interior defensive lineman in terms of their PFF grades. He's got an 87.0. Aaron Lewis on the season has a 71.7. Malcolm Ray, 74.4. Moses Walker, a 75.3 at linebacker. Daryl Jabome at the other linebacker position, 77.9. Robert Longerbeam with a 72.6. Shaquan Loyal with a 64.1. Flip Dixon with a 65.6. Eric Rogers leading the defense with an 87.3 grade. He's a top 10 corner, according to PFF. Desig Benusin with a 69.7. And the last one I'll mention is Bo Mascow at a 71.0. Any of these really jump out at you that you wanted to touch on?
I feel like the Keontae one's a little intriguing because he's not getting pressures. He's not getting sack numbers. It's just he's putting up good stats in general, like rushing defense. Like he's just filling the gap in the middle, basically, stuffing the gap. But I thought he did better this week for sure. But it's just they're not converting these sacks. I need sacks if I'm Greg Schiano. It's getting annoying. Like they need to get some kind of pressure with a 4-man rush, and that was been his kind of his issue all training camp. And you're kind of seeing a little bit of an issue there because they're not converting those sack numbers. But I thought that being that high was a little interesting, and I think Eric Rogers is just a damn good corner in his own right. He's not as good as Max Melton was when fully healthy, but I think he's a pretty good cornerback too. After those two and Mascow, it just gets really thin in the secondary. Even the safeties, the numbers are a little bit lower than I thought they would be. But like Kaj is filling in really nicely, but I don't know how much can I trust a true freshman all season long. Like you see not freshman mistakes because they're not freshmen, but you're seeing those youngster mistakes at linebacker. Am I going to see that at secondary at some point? Maybe. But yeah, no, I thought the defense played solid. They did good. They did their job and kind of just got out of there. Now there was that, like we said before, that missed coverage basically. So there are some flaws, but I think when Powell comes back, he'll be able to mask a little bit of those flaws a little more. And once Bailey comes back, maybe the pass rush gets better. You're just missing pieces still. And like Flip Dixon only played 31 snaps this week. Yep. Out of what were the total snaps? Like 50?
I think it was 31 out of like roughly 60, we'll say. So he played about half the snaps.
Yeah, maybe he'll be healthier in 2 weeks, which you would imagine 2 weeks off or a week off and then a week to prep for Virginia Tech. You just want to get these guys healthy. You need to get them healthy, and I think that's when the defense will show up like they did last year's defense, and they'll just be next level game-changing.
Yep, totally agree. Is there anything else about this game or Rutgers so far that you wanted to hit on before we talk about some opponents for Rutgers the rest of the season?
Looking back, I don't think so. Maybe the punter. I thought he'd be a little better. I think he's just meh so far. There's a lot of hype about him being better than last year's punter, and I haven't yet to see it. Saw it in camp in a couple scrimmages. We saw some flashes. He has his moments, but yeah, I don't think he's. It's tough because we're kind of all a little bit greedy when we had Adam Korsak for 4 years, and he was able to punt it as far and as high as you wanted it. He could pinpoint the goddamn ball at the 1 yard line if you wanted to.
Yep.
So I guess fans are probably just a little greedy in that aspect, but I think he's okay, serviceable. Special teams is just boring for Rutgers because they don't do returns. The kicking game's solid, but that's about it.
Yep. All right, let's talk about some opponents then. We'll start off with our next opponent on the schedule. That's Virginia Tech. We play them after a bye on Saturday the 21st. Game time still to be determined. Let's talk about that first. When can we expect to get a game time for the Virginia Tech game?
If you're listening to this, you probably already know the game time. Okay. It's supposed to come out around 1 today, I think. I think it's 1 or 2. It comes out today. I everyone's really predicting a noon game, especially because Virginia Tech kind of stinks now too. And like if they were undefeated, you might have got a better time slot, but it's probably going to be noon. As for the TV network, I don't really know what they do for the ACC. I think last week's game was on CW for them, so it's like
it was
gross. Number one. Number two, I mean, they're not going to get a primetime game. It's not going to happen. Unfortunately, I know everyone wants it to happen, but I'm looking now at the ACC for that week. Actually, I guess no one got announced yet, technically. So, but there's just Boston College, Michigan State's a better game. That's going to be on ACC Network. Clemson, NC State. Because you know I love Clemson. Georgia Tech, Louisville. Like, there's just a lot better ACC games that they're going to get the shittiest pick, basically.
Yep. This past weekend, Virginia Tech played at home versus Marshall after a week 1 loss at Vanderbilt. Virginia Tech won that game 31-14. This was a game that was 10-7 at halftime, and well into the second half, it was a one-score game. It was a 14-7 game, 17-14 game midway through the third quarter. Virginia Tech scored a couple late touchdowns to put themselves ahead. They did not cover the spread, which was right around 20 points. If you look at the box score, Virginia Tech allowed 5.7 yards per carry in the run game. Their Marshall's Marshall's leading rusher had 103 yards on 6 carries. Most of that was on 169-yard nice run. They weren't able to do a whole lot in the passing game. They had that one viral catch, if you saw it. Marshall's Christian Fitzpatrick had that crazy sideline one-hander.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Kyron Drones really struggled in this game, especially early on. His QBR for the matchup or for the game was 27.4. He went 14-21 on the day for 130 yards. Not great. Bashal Tutin, though, is going to be the guy we need to really bottle up against Virginia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really use him week 1. I think he had 9 total touches week 1, and their fans were losing their minds. Also, he's a Jersey kid. On Saturday, he had 22 rushes for 120 yards and a touchdown. Their leading receiver was Stephen Gosnell, who had a very nice catch along the sideline that was reminiscent of Jaquay Jackson's catch against Temple last year, if you remember that, the deep throw by Gavin to by Jaquay. It was very similar, where he was wide open. He was 3 steps ahead of the defensive back, and Tyron Drones, if he threw an accurate ball to him, it would have been a touchdown easily, but he had to do a full extension grab, and he ended up picking like 49 yards up on the play. Overall, Virginia Tech was not very impressive. Marshall's an opponent they should have handled a lot easier, especially at home during what was a night game for the second half, or it was a night game. Sorry.
Yeah, and they have another 6 p.m. game this week against ODU. That's on ESPN Plus. If you guys want to watch that, just to scout, but like, I don't really know how good. Actually, you'll see Rutgers running back, former Rutgers running back Aaron Young in that game.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, forgot about that. So, I mean, I don't think they're that good this year. I think Virginia Tech Stadium is kind of what is going to play a factor, just because that atmosphere is like top 20, probably higher.
In college I think football? According to College Football 25, it's in the top 25. So
yeah, somewhere there. So that's going to be tough. That atmosphere is crazy. I don't think it's going to be a night game, so that helps. But they are doing not a whiteout. I guess it's the white effect game, whatever it is. Some corny thing, but I don't know what jerseys Rutgers are going to wear. I mean, obviously Scarlet, if I had to guess, but do you go all Scarlet? Do you go red and white?
Well, you don't wear your team colors on the road, so Rutgers will be wearing.
You have to, right?
So it's same thing like a Penn State whiteout. They still wear their home blues.
They're not going to. Okay, I thought they were doing whiteout uniforms too. Like, okay.
Yeah, I don't. I've never seen that before. Usually Rutgers wears.
Gotcha. So
white on the road.
Just sounds. I know Penn State does it too. They wear the blue for the whiteout. I don't like that. I think it's just kind of dumb. Just everyone wear white though, but if you can. But I think both teams have to agree to that too, and that's part of the issue.
Yep.
Whatever. So Rutgers is probably going to wear their white uniforms then.
Yep. So we'll move on to the next opponent. Washington won at home against Eastern Michigan. This was a slow start for the Huskies. They did not score their first touchdown until midway through the second quarter. The first 3 drives were 3 and out, punt, 3 and out, and then EMU fumbled deep in their own territory, and Washington was able to score a touchdown on that next drive. EMU led currently by former Rutgers quarterback Cole Snyder. This is a game that was, a 1-score game right before halftime, and then Washington really started to turn it on. It was 21-6 at half. I mean, they're just an overmatched opponent. Will Rogers looked much better this week than he did last week. They have a really good running back in Jonah Coleman. He'll be the guy that Rutgers has to hone in on. The second straight 100-yard game after a really good season last year with Arizona. I think Washington's clearly taken a step back this season, but they're not a bad team by any means.
No. Getting them on a Friday night in prime time is really huge for Rutgers in this one, and I think Fish is a hell of a coach, but it's going to take them time to rebuild that whole team. They lost, I think we said it last week, they lost like 19 of their 22 starters, like something like that. It might be 18. And Will Rogers, good quarterback, solid quarterback, SEC experience, put up good numbers. Fish, good coach. I just don't think this is the year for them, and the fact that it's a home game for Rutgers, I'm eerily confident, to be honest. And again, they haven't played anyone good. Eastern Michigan, meh. Weber State, meh. And then Washington State this weekend, so that's the big one to probably watch.
Yep, definitely. The next opponent on the schedule is Nebraska. They went to 2-0 this weekend with a home win over Colorado. Honestly, Nebraska, they didn't really ever get challenged on Saturday by Colorado. They went up to they got a 28-0 first half lead, and then they didn't score the rest of the game. Raiola does some really impressive things, but he makes a lot of freshman mistakes as well. He hasn't really played that good of a team yet. Like, I'll be honest, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Colorado goes like 3-9 this year. They're not a very good team. They clearly are. I don't know. Yeah, they're just a team that I wouldn't put any money on for the entire season.
It's tough because they always get like that opening win, and like last year they got an opening win against TCU, but it was TCU fresh off of a college football final berth. They lost a bunch of people. This year they beat North Dakota State, and they're a good FCS program. I think they're like number 2 or number 3 in FCS, but again, to FCS, there's a big gap.
Yep.
And then Shedeur just literally just put the whole like game. He's like, "Yep, look, Dylan Raiola didn't get hit. I got hit. My offensive line." He basically said his offensive line sucks, which they do, fair. But as the quarterback, you don't say that. And as the quarterback, you don't leave your team with 2 minutes left in the game.
Yeah. And they started off with some really good field position in the first half. Like their first touchdown drive, they started off with Colorado 49. They got a pick six on a terrible, terrible throw by Shedeur Sanders. Their next drive, they started off at their own 30, but the following drive, they started off at the Nebraska 45. The following drive after that, they started at the 14. But I like watching that game early on, it was like Nebraska was just getting the ball at midfield, like almost the entire first half. And I didn't watch the second half, to be totally honest. Yeah, Ramiro Johnson, Bergen Catholic guy.
Yeah.
But not being able to score in the entire second half when you have a huge lead, but I don't know, they didn't really step on the throats in the second half. They just kind of like whatever.
For a rivalry game, you have to. Like that's something you have to do.
Yeah.
So that's why it got a little interesting. Dylan Raiola, though, dude, just the man's got to stop. He's basically like exact clone of a younger version of Pat Mahomes, like doing like the celebrations and stuff. I'm like, just stop. Like, I know you say you're not like trying to copy him, but like, it's insane. The number, the swag, everything, like the haircut, like it's like a clone. It's creepy.
Yep. So they will not really have many tests early on in the season. So they just played Colorado. They play Northern Iowa next week at home. They actually do have a couple tough games leading up to Rutgers. So Illinois beat ranked Kansas this past weekend. They're right on the cusp of being ranked themselves.
Yeah.
I personally didn't expect much out of the Fighting Illini this season. But I mean, they've turned in two pretty impressive performances in a row. They blew out Eastern Illinois opening weekend 45-0. Then they beat a team that a lot of people were high on in Kansas this past weekend in Champaign. And then they got to go at Purdue following game, which Purdue, they're not like a world beater, but they have a really good quarterback in Hudson Card, who's I think in his 5th or 6th year at this point. Purdue had an early bye after a game against Indiana State, and they play Notre Dame at home this upcoming weekend. A very wounded Notre Dame, ego-wise. So that's a game I could easily see Purdue winning. And then Purdue has to go out to Oregon State before their tilt against Nebraska. So Purdue could be a tough opponent. So they might be playing 2 tough opponents in a row before Rutgers is able to get their hands on them. So keep an eye on that.
Also, since you referenced Notre Dame, shout out to Thomas Hammock, head coach of Northern Illinois, Jersey City guy, Jersey boy, pulled off the upset and cashed that $1.4 million check. I mean,
Let's
that's
go.
Good for him. That's a hell of a win to defeat Notre Dame as a. Are they in the MAC, Northern Illinois? I think they are, right? Yeah,
they're in the MAC.
Yeah, good for him, man. MAC teams, I'm telling you, they're sneaky. You saw it with Bowling Green this weekend. You saw it with Northern Illinois this weekend. They got some good ones. I'm not gonna lie. They got some good players out there.
Next opponent, Wisconsin. Wisconsin won a game that was much closer than it probably should have been against FCS South Dakota. So this was a game that was 17-13 at the end of the third quarter. Wisconsin scored a late touchdown to kind of pull away a little bit. Wisconsin, though, was only a 17.5-point favorite in this game against an FCS opponent. This upcoming weekend, they're playing at home against Alabama. They're playing on the road against USC after a bye, and then they're playing at home against Purdue before they come to Rutgers on the 12th of October. I mean, this could be a free fall for them. This could easily be 3 losses in a row the following 3 weeks. So
they got Big Noon kickoff this week, didn't they, with Alabama? Which is kind of crazy because it's like, Alabama opened as 16.5-point favorites. Like, not
in
a good
Camp
Wisconsin.
Randall.
Yeah, that's the worst part. I don't know. I don't get it, but I don't know. Maybe Luke Fickell will be looking for a new job soon. They probably give him another year or 2, but
no,
you never know.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. It's just something we didn't see. The Big Ten's weird this year. I didn't see that happening. Them being and I mean they're 2-0, so you can't complain too much. But they're just not winning like convincingly. But I also didn't see Purdue not being the worst team in the Big Ten, and they're not. Like Illinois, I didn't see being that good, Illinois. Now they look solid. Like the Big Ten's weird this year. I don't get it. I'll never understand it, but that's why they play the games.
Yep. The following opponent after Wisconsin, we'll talk UCLA a bit here. UCLA, they were on a bye this week, so not a whole lot of new things to talk about. They play their first ever Big Ten game this weekend at home versus Indiana. Indiana's first 2 weeks, they beat FIU 31-7, and then I think on Friday night they beat Western Illinois 77-3. I don't know what Western Illinois did to Coach Signetti and the Hoosiers, but they were not having it and just took out an entire offseason worth of frustration on them. Listen to the stretch, though, that UCLA plays before coming to Piscataway. So they're playing this weekend versus Indiana. Then they go on the road to Death Valley to play LSU. Then they play at home against Oregon. And then they go on the road to Happy Valley to play Penn State.
Yeah.
They have a home game versus Minnesota, and then they play Rutgers on the road. Absolutely brutal stretch for them. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so this is another one of those opponents where Rutgers is going to catch a team in their 6th game in 6 weeks. Rutgers is going to steamroll UCLA. They're going to be just walking wounded. Deshaun Foster has no idea what he's talking about, no idea what he's doing. I have no doubt that Rutgers is going to beat the absolute brakes off UCLA.
You were going to
a team that could barely beat Hawaii week 1. What'd you say?
You were going to say beats the piss out of them, Mikey.
Yeah, whatever you want to use. Yeah, they're going to beat whatever that is out of them.
Yeah, from East Coast or West Coast to East Coast too. It's not easy. This is going to be that. The worst part is they have to go to Penn State. then go home, and then go back all the way across. And it's like to Rutgers, and it's like, geez, man, they just no favors with this schedule. Whoever the AD is needs to be fired because they sent him to Hawaii. They sent him to Death Valley and LSU. And then they're like, oh, yeah, on top of that, for the Big Ten schedule, you're going to play Oregon. But you'll get them at home. Don't worry. Mm-hmm. Then you got to go to Penn State. Then you got to go to Rutgers. Then you got to go to Nebraska. Like those are like some of the worst atmospheres to go to.
I know.
For a year one coach, oh, my God, he's done for.
It's brutal. The final team before Rutgers is on bye, and that's the one we'll leave off with today. USC, who's now ranked 11th. They play at Michigan this upcoming weekend. I don't see any way that USC doesn't roll these guys. Michigan looked terrible this past weekend against Texas. Texas could have easily scored 50 points if they wanted to on the Wolverines. But USC plays at Michigan, then home against Wisconsin, at Minnesota, home against Penn State, at Maryland.
Weeks, technically.
Yes. Yep. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. They're on bye. I was wondering why that looked weird. So yeah, they're on bye this upcoming week. Then they play at Michigan, home against Wisconsin, at Minnesota, home Penn State, at Maryland, and against Rutgers on the 25th of October. For Penn State or for USC, this is another instance of playing Rutgers getting an opponent in their sixth game in 6 weeks. So you got to hope that maybe they're a little beat up, but they look like a wagon right now. Another team that is ranked is now Nebraska. They're ranked 23rd, I believe, in the AP poll. So Rutgers has 2 ranked teams now, and they have to go on the road and play both of them. So
has switched
tough
up
games.
A little bit. I'm looking at this now, and I don't think this is right. ESPN per ESPN Bet or whatever has Michigan as 9.5-point favorites right now. Is that just not updated versus USC in 2 weeks? Because that seems like free money if that's the case.
I would bet that if it's available.
It says
100%.
on ESPN Bet. I mean, it might just have to be the option right there.
ESPN Bet is trash.
I know, but if
it's such a bet,
a little bit free money right there. So that's just interesting. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I'm seeing the line here is Michigan 9.5 too. Damn.
That's what I'm saying. Go throw the house real quick on just do the spread if you want to just be a little cautious. But money line plus 240, like.
Yeah. Go make that bet. If you're listening to this, pause the pod.
Yeah.
And go make that bet.
Yeah.
Money line, USC, lock it in.
I'm trying to see if it's actually on the app too. Or is it a mistake? Like, it might be. Chippewas, Eastern Michigan. I can't even find it on the app, actually, but because they play Arkansas State this weekend. Is Butch Jones still the head coach there?
I think so, yeah.
Ew, gross. Yeah. Butch Jones wanted that Rutgers job more than anything in the world. No, never forget.
So appreciate you guys listening to the future opponents portion of this. We're going to move on to some hoops recruiting, or what I'll call the Dave White special, because I know he's been asking for some hoops coverage.
Yeah.
Things have been relatively quiet. Hoops recruiting, though, is starting to pick up. They had their first official visitor of the school year this past weekend, and they have a few more lined up for later in September and early October.
Correct.
So, Rich, tell us about who visited this past weekend and what you're hearing in his recruitment now that he's visited Rutgers.
3-star big man, Javonte Ware, coming out of One of One Prep Academy in North Carolina, just one of those typical like basketball program that's not really school, but it's a school. But besides the point, Rutgers saw him this summer at he's on the Puma circuit, which is the next pro, I think it is, NXT Pro circuit. So a little bit off the beaten path. So not many people knew about him. A lot of people went to watch him this summer, and then all of a sudden, who was it? Alabama, Rutgers, Tennessee, Mississippi State, and Wake Forest all just sent out offers after watching him. So he's a little bit off the beaten path, so a lot of people don't know about him, but people that have watched him have almost offered on the spot. Now, this is where it gets really weird. The kid has a top 4 list of DePaul, Duquesne, Rutgers, and Wake Forest. Very, very odd list. He took official visits to 3 of the 4. He didn't go to DePaul. sounds like he's not going to visit DePaul, but they're trying to get him to campus. But as of right now, he went to Wake Forest August 2nd, went to Duquesne August 4th, and then went to Rutgers September 6th for his official visit there. Liked the visit a lot. Sounds like they did. They made up a lot of ground. I think previously I was thinking more of this was a Wake Forest battle to win. I actually thought he was going to commit after the Wake Forest one, the way he raved about him. But he went to Rutgers, and he sounds like Rutgers might be in the lead here. And this is like their kind of only forward target at the moment. They want one forward and at least a guard or two. It's tough because that number kind of fluctuates based on the fact that the portal's there now. And they're going to be active in the portal, of course, every year at this point. But I think Rutgers has a really good shot. Smoke Williamson, the lead recruiter here, the guy gets basically just about anyone he wants for the most part. So something to keep an eye on. Top forward target. I wouldn't be shocked if we hear some news about him in the next week or so. So, yeah.
Did Rutgers make up a lot of ground with this visit? I know, he had a top 4 that you just mentioned, but would you say Rutgers is kind of in the driver's seat right now for his recruitment?
I'd argue it's pretty close. I'm not confident enough to. I would say they're in the driver's seat, but I'm not going to put in a future cast yet. I want to talk to some people before I confirm anything. But I think they're in a really good spot. I wouldn't be shocked if, like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up a Scarlet Knight when it's all said and done. And this might be their loan commit before the November signing period, which is fine. But they also have a couple other guards that are coming to campus. Who's the next one? Lino Mark is coming to campus on the 18th. It's a midweek visit, but it's more so for him to watch practices, and they just schedule it based on that. Of course, they would like him to go, but he's also got a ton of official visits. So like this man's schedule is crazy. So he's going to USC on the 6th, or he went to USC this weekend. Actually, today's the 9th, right? He's at Seton Hall today. Then a couple weeks go by. He goes to Rutgers on the 18th, West Virginia on the 20th, Utah on the 27th, and TCU on October 4th. So this man is just visiting everywhere possible. The new official visit rule. This is like the first kid I've actually seen take advantage of it. He's going to all these different schools. He has a top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, top 9 list of schools. And he's going to visit every single one but UC Santa Barbara. But I don't know if Rutgers really has a good shot there. He's coming across country, coming from Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks, California. So I don't think they end up landing him, but they're going to get him to campus. And I didn't think they were going to land Javonte Ware. They didn't land him yet, just to clarify. But I didn't think they had a shot to land him, and now they have a really good shot at landing him. And then the last one's Kelvin. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. It's Odih. I think it's Oda. Odie. We'll go Odie. That sounds right. Connecticut kid just transferred to Southern Cal Academy, which is like the Rutgers fans would know this because I think they recruited a big man from there in Juselin Bodo a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah. So
didn't he have a really good freshman season too?
I don't even know where he ended up going, to be honest. Was it like Arizona State, maybe? I don't know where he went, but besides the point.
He went to a smaller school, and I believe he had a good freshman season. He went to High Point.
Okay, gotcha. There was some kind of Rutgers connection there, and I can't remember what it was. One of the assistant coaches over there, I know, had a connection to either Peichel or TJ or Brandon. It was connected to one of those guys. Let's see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah, his freshman season this past year at High Point, he averaged 7.1 points per game, 9.6 rebounds per game, and 2 blocks a game in 24 minutes per game for High Point.
There you go. Yeah, I can't remember what his connection was, but one of their assistant coaches is close with Rutgers. Why the hell can I not remember? Besides the point, I think that they have a decent shot there with Kelvin Odie. Being a New England kid kind of helps. I think TJ Thompson's the lead recruiter there. But there's some other also schools that are after him. West Virginia just had him on a visit on the 30th of August. Creighton will get him this weekend, and then Colorado will get him on the 20th, and then Rutgers on October 4th. So it's kind of like a 4-team race, you could say. But he really raved about West Virginia more than anything. But also, you got to remember, it's his only official visit so far, too. So kind of wait and see what happens there. But I think Rutgers has a good shot of landing him, and he should be in the top 150 in these new rankings that come out next week, I think, or 2 weeks. But he'll be in the top 150.
One other guy that had tweeted about taking an official visit to Rutgers, then deleted it because of a scheduling problem, Kyan Anthony. he was, he originally tweeted that he was going to take an official visit to Rutgers over the weekend of the 27th, which would be the Washington game. I think a scheduling conflict came up. Do you think he is going to visit in the near future at Rutgers, or is that still to be determined?
That's to be determined. I still think even if he does visit, it's probably all Syracuse all the way, and that's not super shocking for the sole fact that his father is Carmelo Anthony, Syracuse national champ, legend. Like,
I think he's close to their current head coach as well.
yeah, Gene Autry, I think. Audrey.
Mm-hmm.
I forget how to pronounce it. But yeah, he's supposed to be at USC next weekend, and he's going to Florida State on October 13th or 14th, whatever that weekend is. And then he'll go to Syracuse October 19th, and that probably seals the deal there. Now, I know Rutgers is interested. Like, they would love to get him, but I can't see it happening personally. Now, it'd be funny if you get to see maybe Carmelo goes on the visit with him if he visits Rutgers and puts on a little Rutgers t-shirt. I'd pay money to watch Carmelo put on a Rutgers t-shirt.
I think a lot of Knicks fans in the fan base would as well.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. But I don't think they have a shot at him. I don't even know if he's going to visit, to be honest with you. But he said he says he would like to. Will it happen? I'm going to go with probably not.
Got it. So that's the quick rundown on where things stand in hoops recruiting. Is there anything we didn't touch on today, now that we're an hour plus in, that you wanted to talk about?
It's a long one, but if you made it this far, Dylan Harper's fully healthy. He's practicing. We'll get to see him in 2 weeks, I'm told, for a media day. We'll get to see the whole team, see him practice, all that good stuff. Tyson Acuff has not been cleared to play or practice yet. But he doesn't have the boot anymore. So if their timelines are correct based on his health, he should be perfectly fine to practice and get ramped up before the season starts. The timeline we were told for Dylan was almost spot on, that 4 to 6 week range. So I'm assuming this timeline is probably going to be similar, obviously barring setbacks and stuff. But as of right now, he seems like he'll be good to go. And I'm excited to see this team. I know football's in full swing and everything, but this basketball team's got next level potential.
Yep, super excited for that to start. But that's all we got.
That's a long one.
I don't know this week if we're going to have how many pods we're going to have this week.
Yeah.
If any news breaks, we'll definitely have something. We're trying to put some content together for the bye week.
Do I tease the giveaway?
We could tease the giveaway, sure.
I mean, it's kind of nice right there.
Ooh, what is that?
Can't do the whole thing. Just a little peek.
For the podcast listeners, Richie
if
just
you made
showed,
it this far, then I got to give you a little credit.
Yeah, just showed a piece of fabric that said McEachern on it, so you can determine what that is with your own imagination. If you're on YouTube, you might have a better idea of what it is, but
yeah,
that is the giveaway for right before the basketball season. So we'll let you know when that starts and give everyone ample opportunity to be involved in that.
Oh yeah, of course.
I want to thank everybody who's listened, rated, reviewed, told a friend, all of the above. It's really helped the channel grow, and we really do appreciate each and every one of you. But for me and Richie, this has been another edition of the Knight Report podcast, signing off.